A nudnik, a real bum.
The bad clowns freak him out.
This is the theme song of the podcast of the movie of the uncle of the nephew who's a dreamer and he can keep a job. We watch the movie by the minute and we talk about what's in it, but we want it to be different, so we added 2 more seconds. It's UHF 62.
60 second, UHF 60 second.
Welcome to minute 20 of UHF 60 Second, the podcast, the only podcast, where we look at the movie UHF 62 seconds at a time. My name is Jonathan Carlisle, and my other host is...
David Johnson.
That's true. I always feel weird saying co-host. What about you?
Evidently not, because that's what I called you last episode. I relegated you to co-host. You have not. I do not grant you the title of host, apparently.
That was my passive-aggressive...
Oh, really? Oh, man.
Live and on the air.
Ladies and gentlemen, this may be the last episode.
Minute 20. We made it. We're done. So minute 20, before we get into it, minute 20 starts. Our 20th section of 62 seconds starts with RJ asking if Stanley cleaned up, and it ends with RJ cleaning up.
Does it, though? Or does it end with George making an entrance?
Shh.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Although, if I'm ignoring the last 2 seconds of our 62-second chunk, then what are we doing here?
What are we even doing? Yeah.
It does start. We have Stanley in the room. RJ is going at it, and he asks him... He calms down a bit. Were you here last night? Did you clean up? Did you see stuff? You know, getting down. We know he's getting frustrated, but he's smoothing things out.
Yeah, he does the kind of the leading the witness kind of thing that the lawyers do, where they ask a series of simple questions that they already know the answer to, and then they hit you with one that you don't, know how to respond to. Right,
and there's nobody in the room to call out objection because they don't care.
I hope you checked. I guess that's how often were we supposed to do this? That was like a little tip of the hat to the guys over at Star Wars Minute who kind of pioneered the format of reviewing films 60 seconds at a time, which is not what we're doing here.
Right. So
back on track.
Yeah. How do you want to approach? Like this minute is pretty much this, and then some reaction. And that's what this whole minute is. So
right. So one thing I was talking to former guest of the show, Tom, earlier today, and he was actually relating a story to me that I was like, yeah, that's kind of weird. He has a young son who I guess is sometimes a little forgetful and forgot his homework, lost his homework, and was blaming it on that the janitor at the school had thrown it away. And, and Tom was like, that doesn't make any sense because, certainly a janitor at a school would know what homework looks like and would never throw it away, and Tom said he went on to use the example of, UHF, which is because his son is also a Weird Al fan. He's like, you don't want to get that janitor fired like Stanley got fired. But, it does make sense. Like a janitor, certainly, if anybody knows the difference between something that has value and something that doesn't have value, it's going to be a janitor. They're tasked with throwing things out or keeping things or straightening things up. Like, he would know if there was something missing from that desk, he would know it was the stapler.
Back in the days of yore, when we went to school, a lot of times it was like Stanley. It was a personal janitor who was at the location, and that was their job. And when you do that, you can get a sense of loyalty or pride in your job and where you do it, because that's where you do it. I know at least at different times they've gotten away from that, and they basically hire services to come in. They're just traveling from school to school doing these things, or might have got a disgruntled custodian just saw this kid's homework and was like, should have kept it in your locker.
I don't know about that, but I like the idea of a wandering band of custodians traveling from school to school. Have you ever been a janitor or a custodian?
Officially I've done maintenance, but not custodial. Although sometimes those lines get blurred pretty well. But I will tell you, I considered being a janitor. taking pride in my work and doing it at a place and keeping that place spick and span. I'm just going to live my life and do this thing. So I have considered it, but that's a long, long answer to say no.
I did a brief stint as a janitor, actually in high school, my senior year of high school. I'm second guessing myself now. It might have been the year after I graduated high school. No, I was in high school. Sorry. Yep. I would go in after school to a factory type situation and clean the front offices and then do some cleaning around the factory in certain areas. That's a very boring story. So I will leave you with this story that when I've mentioned this before a couple of times that I worked at Burger King. This was prior. And one of my first days at Burger King, they told me to get the mop, that I needed to mop up the floor in the walk-in freezer. If you don't know what happens when you get a wet mop and splat it down on the floor in the walk-in freezer, what happens is the mop sticks to the floor. And then you get laughed at by everybody.
Someone double dog dare you, didn't they?
No, I just was like a 16-year-old kid and didn't really think about it or know about it. They set me up,
Sure.
So that's a thing that you can, if you have a walk-in freezer in your place of employment and you have somebody new and young, you can tell them they need to mop the walk-in freezer and then sit back and watch the fun.
Please tell me that you, with your Kramer hair, when you slapped that mop down and it froze, did you shout, "My mop"?
No, and I didn't have the Kramer hair yet. The Kramer hair was later on. I had like the long bangs and the buzzed back kind of thing going on. Ladies and gentlemen, I am now completely bald. Well, not completely bald. I kind of have the horseshoe thing going on, and currently I am growing out a skullet, actually. So I've had a variety of hairstyles. Let me ask you this: how do you think Stanley got this job? I think that he probably inherited this job from his father. Like, I doubt he's actually like on a payroll. Like, his father probably worked here, and then when his father got too old to wield the mop, Stanley just started taking over, and they probably don't even know his name.
Are you saying for better or for worse that Channel 8 is just a big family business?
Yeah, I guess there's nepotism at all levels in this operation.
Do you think this mop is like his dad's mop?
Well, it's my mop. It's his mop,
Yeah.
It was
now.
Yeah, it was gifted to him. Well, not anymore, pal. But buddy. Is it buddy? Oh, buddy. I can't believe I'm even allowed to.
Roasted.
I think his dad probably saved up and got him his own mop,
But he's still got apparently you have to attach your own hand pad, which I guess that would be custom because, people are different sizes, their arms are different lengths, so you'd want your hand pad where you're going to need it. You
do want your hand pad where you're going to need it. So Stanley gets fired, and this is our RJ showing Donald Trump how it's done here. He really gets fired.
He's very free with the insults, and they just keep coming. Like, you're a worthless human being. You're fired.
Yeah.
Well, that's when he learns his name.
Yeah, his first name.
He doesn't even know his name.
Yeah.
He's like, this is Stanley. Stanley Spadowski.
Yeah, he does, and he brings them in, with like, may I call you Stanley? And that reminds me, I was going to share another story of a classic firing of a guy that got let go. Over the boss came up to him and, Mike, how many years have you been working here? And Mike said, 25 years now. He's like, wow, I don't know how we'd ever do it without you, Mike, but starting today, we're going to find out how.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Which is pretty brutal.
That makes me think that, as employees, a lot of people have like the rage quit fantasy, like you were talking about last episode.
Mm-hmm.
So do people that get into management positions, I know people that are in those positions that do not like that firing part of it, but are there people that have the rage fire fantasy?
There's certainly a
premeditated.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good descriptor. I don't even like thinking about that. I'm super non-confrontational by nature, except for when it comes to letting you know that you're only a co-host and you have not achieved full host status, apparently. But I'm sure that
there's nothing wrong with the word co-host.
Now, I noticed that you're saying co-host and not co-host.
Should it be co-host?
Co-host.
Co-host. Maybe the O is silent. One of the O's is silent. Cost.
Is it a soft, like a host?
At least I think the C and the H don't really come together completely because the O is maybe silent, but it still creates that space.
Yeah.
So it's not chost.
It'd be like a prost. No.
Where'd the P come from?
Well, that's a... Wouldn't you like to know?
You're fired.
So, yeah. So the fire, and then he carries on with the, get out! Get out! And it's very, the hand gesture with the one finger kind of limply raising into the air. It's very, I can see Ian McKellen as Gandalf, telling Pippin or Merryweather, after they've bungled something up, I don't know. It just seems very Shakespearean in its delivery of the get out part of that.
It does, now that I've actually seen it, it does seem to harken back to the Body Snatchers.
Oh, yeah.
Then we have another fun Stanley bumbling moment where he bumps the door on his way out, and then it shuts behind him, and he thinks that he's outside the door.
Yeah.
He turns around. And I just like the people are...
Yeah, I have been known to do this whenever I struggle with a door, if I'm pushing rather than pulling, or anytime I have trouble opening a door, I've been known to mutter that under my breath.
What do you think he was going to say?
That's a good question.
Like he just got fired. It wasn't like the first thing out of his mouth was, what am I going to do? Or he was just, it almost seemed like maybe this has happened before. He's just like, I'll just let him cool down. It's like people are...
Yeah, maybe he has been fired many times from this place, but since he's not actually on the payroll, and since he, lives here probably.
Is there anything to analyze that when we first saw George, like for real, not his imaginations, but we first saw George for real, he got fired, but he got fired because he wasn't doing a job, and Stanley's getting fired. Well, I guess he got fired because it was imagined that he didn't do the job, but he does do the job.
Stanley's a scapegoat in this situation.
Yeah, and we do find out in this minute, so I guess we can talk about that.
Yeah,
that Stanley did his job. He did not lose the 2 months of intensive research.
Yeah. No, he didn't even lose that stapler. He knew that was there, even though it was missing, apparently.
Yeah. So RJ sits down, finds the file underneath his bum, where it's been the whole time.
I have to say that that little Foley or sound effect when he sits down kind of grosses me out. I don't know why.
I can't say I know what you're talking about.
There's like a little sound, like a little sweetened sound when he sits down in that chair.
Sweetened.
You know what I mean?
Could it perhaps just be like the imagined sound of the leather squeaking as he sits?
No, It's like there's like a slight paper crinkle.
I'm going to need you to make the sound for me.
See there, that sound.
Wow, that was really good.
Yeah,
you really pulled that out.
Yeah, I don't react nearly as intensely as like nails on a chalkboard, but it's just like a sound that I don't like to hear, and I don't know why. It's very weird and silly.
Well, I probably didn't notice that because then the next thing we hear is RJ laughing, and then everybody else joins in, and that's what I remember in the audio. Exactly. You did that one very well too.
Thank you.
Now everybody's laughing, but I don't know. Can we? I guess we could probably hear the other guys, but my brain does not hear anybody else except for RJ Jr.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't. The other guys at least look like they know how to fake laugh, but Junior just doesn't.
Yeah, he comes off as a complete alien in that moment. I mean, and then we just get a moment of George walking up to a door, except for not really, because that ruins the intro. Yeah,
we don't care about the last 2 seconds.
Never ever do we care about the last 2 seconds on this show.
Just a quick note, based on the commentary, this was the moment when Weird Al, again, says the address, although this time not as specific. But all of these inside shots, the Channel 8 and the Channel 62, were filmed in the Kensington Galleria. Have we already said that before?
We have not. No, go ahead. Go
Kensington
for it.
Galleria. He says it was at 71st and Lewis, which is very easy to find as far as those two roads and where they meet. I will have to say that at least as far as 2019 Google searching goes, I'm not sure if the building even still exists or if they've majorly renovated it, because I could not figure out exactly where this is. My 2 months of intensive research. Could be wrong.
Could be wrong. Could be right. You guys, have you gone to UHF62indie.com, otherwise known as of60second.com? You should. And you should go look at the map because it's super cool. And you should read the Big Boy blog and see what's going on with Big Boy. And you should also, Jonathan, in case you haven't noticed, I'm gonna launch into some social medias and things like that. Do we have anything else for minute 20, episode 20?
20, of course, is a multiple of 10.
Yes.
Which is a nice number.
Yes.
You know, we use the base 10 system. I like it. It's also an even number. I prefer evens over odds. I don't know if that has come up, but I'm sure it won't be the last time that comes up in this podcast.
Well, visit the aforementioned website and try not to get fired.